It's a really sad situation that we find ourselves in. We thank you for the work that you do. We thank those that wear the uniform that serve in these dangerous situations, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Goldman, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's talk about the rule of law, and let's talk about what is actually going on in our country with civil immigration enforcement. I want to be very clear and upfront. I was a prosecutor for the Department of Justice for 10 years. I worked alongside law enforcement officers from every federal agency, including the Department of Homeland Security, some of the most patriotic and brave individuals who absolutely represented the very, very best of our country. And frankly, it is that experience that has made me so upset about what we are seeing on the streets of the United States. Mr. Thompson, in your opening statement, you said that these agents wake up, they put on their uniform, they put on their star, and they do their job with civility. The problem is that's not the case. They don't put on a uniform. They don't wear identification. And they go out with masks on to violently, in many cases, arrest unsuspecting immigrants, nonviolent, many of whom are actually here legally. So let's take a look of the other side of the perspective and roll a video, please.
I'm sorry, were you asking me a question?
No, let's roll a video.
Striking anyone in their sights, including members of the media, repeatedly.
Damage to his brain from being slammed headfirst into the ground.
What am I doing? Hey, Kevin! Hey, I'm yours. Oh, come on, man.
Now, that last clip was from 26 Federal Plaza in Manhattan, in my district. The individual, the officer, was immediately suspended when the Department of Homeland Security said that conduct is unacceptable and not representative of ICE. 3 days later, he was reinstated. I referred that case to the United States Attorney's Office, because if we are talking about prosecuting assaults, that's one that seems like it might be prosecuted. We've gotten no word. And the reason why this is dangerous is that force is obviously unnecessary. There are no people, no women, no old men, no pellet guns necessary in what we saw on those videos. There are circumstances, and let's be very clear, where protesters or others are acting violently, breaking the law. They should be charged. But that does not mean that it gives ICE a license to use excessive force whenever they want. And the problem with these masked, unidentified, plainclothes officers is not just something that you hear from this side of the aisle. It is not something at all you hear from that side of the aisle. But it is something that you hear from the FBI itself and the director, Kash Patel, who wrote a letter to the Department of Homeland Security urging ICE officers to stop walking around with masks, in plain clothes, and unidentified, because numerous crimes are being committed by others, criminals, imitating ICE officers, including in my district, where a man approached a woman, said he was an immigration officer, and then directed her to a nearby stairwell where he punched her, tried to rape her, and stole her phone before she was able to get away. That is why I've introduced the No Secret Police Act. Our law enforcement agents should not be masked. And we hear about this number, 1,000% of threats now that have been raised. The data shows there's a 25% increase of charged assaults against law enforcement officers. That is too much. That is not okay. There's obviously a dramatic increase in operations, but we should not have in this country our law enforcement agents walking around in secret using excessive force like that. You all, I know, agree that. We don't need secret police in this country. All the criminal law enforcement agents wear masks, as you say, for operational
Gentleman's
reasons,
time has expired. I now
not to
recognize the
hide their
gentleman
face.
from Arizona.
And I thank you, and I yield back.
Mr. Crane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today on how anti-law enforcement rhetoric fuels violence against officers. I want to thank you also to the panel for showing up today. I also want to point out that Mr. Goldman was just, talking to Mr. Thompson about how these agents, get up every day and they're not putting on uniforms. And then he showed several videos, and I want to point out that 90% of the law enforcement officers in those videos were, in fact, wearing uniforms. Now I want to pivot to you, Mr. Hodges. In your opening testimony today, I want to read through some of the transcript that you provided the committee. You said, "I've been on the receiving end of threats and violence due to the work I've done in the name of the law." Did you say that in your opening testimony?
Yes.
You also said in paragraph 4, law enforcement is predicated on the notion that we are a nation of laws. Did you say that as well in your opening testimony?
Yep.
And then you say on the second page, "The fact of the matter is that right now in the United States of America, there is a secret police force abducting people based on the color of their skin." Did you say that as well?
Yep.
You really believe that?
Yep.
So you don't think that our law enforcement officers are going out and trying to arrest people who are here illegally that are also have been convicted of crimes? You don't think that that's what they're doing?
I think they do that sometimes, sure.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And it's funny because you say in your testimony that I've been on the receiving end of threats and violence due to the work I've done in the name of the law, yet you're sitting here and you're saying that these law enforcement officers, you're fueling the same rhetoric, and now people are going to come after them for that. Do you agree with that, Mr. Thompson?
100%.
Mr. Hughes? What about you, Mr. Yos?
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your service. I do. I know it's not easy to put on a badge, but I can't believe you would sit here and say that. You would complain about the treatment that you've received because of the work that you've done in the name of the law, and then you have the audacity to come in here and say that these men and women, federal law enforcement officers, are going out there abducting people because of the color of their skin?
Yes.
Yeah, that's rich, and it's pathetic, and you should be ashamed of yourself. It's funny because I got a buddy of mine who doesn't have the same color of skin that I have, who's texting me right now during this hearing, watching you. The guy worked in the Border Patrol for a long time, and he told me, he texted me, that's a slap in the face to all of us who go out there and fight against cartels and criminals each and every day. You're trying to make it about color of skin, and we all know at the end of the day, there are so many law enforcement officers, great law enforcement officers that represent all of our communities that have every color of skin out there. They pray to different gods, and they're just trying to do their job. Do you find that ironic that you're actually doing the same thing that you're complaining about in your opening statement? Is that lost on you, Mr. Hodges?
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't. Immigration and Nationality Act. The Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, gives the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, broad authority over immigration enforcement, detention, and removal. DHS agencies like ICE, CBP, USCIS exercise powers delegated under the INA, including arresting, detaining, interrogating, and removing non-citizens who are in violation of immigration laws. That's exactly what they're doing. They're actually carrying out the laws that we pass in this country. That's pathetic, man. I want to play a video. You guys got my video? Anybody? All right. Now, Now, obviously, we're sitting in here talking about rhetoric and how it fuels violence against officers. For you guys that represent so many officers around the country, what do you think it means to people that, are out there watching and listening, watching social media, watching the news, and they see a member of Congress who sits on this committee go out there and behave like that? Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
I'm appalled. I'm disappointed. I believe it's beneath the dignity of this body, this committee, and membership to it. And quite honestly, I find it reprehensible, and it's obviously dangerous.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Ramirez, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Well, let me step back for a second and say that I think that today's hearing